So in this lesson, I want to show you 3 different ways to deal with playing the alternating thumb on an E groove that will let you play longer and more elaborate, even more chromatic licks on top. And the basic idea is this. If you're playing blues with an alternating thumb in E, then you're going to be alternating between the 6th string and the 4th string primarily. And the most fundamental thing to do is to hold down an E at the 2nd fret on the 4th string so that you have something to alternate with. But that keeps you kind of tied down in terms of what you can play. So it's great if you're just playing blues licks. But the minute you want to do anything else, if you want to slide out of position, or if you want to play something that is kind of tying up your fingers more with something that's more chromatic or more jazz inflected. Whatever it is, suddenly you don't want to have to be keeping like this note here. And there are a couple of ways to sort of fake it so that you can still keep the groove going and not sound like the bass is just completely out to lunch. So your first choice is to hold down that E. Your next choice is, well, the other 2 ways you can go are you can kind of keep a finger touching the 4th string so that you get this sort of ghosted percussion thing. So and sometimes that just occurs naturally if you're just sort of like me, just kind of playing in sort of a I don't know, like lazy or sloppy, or just, I didn't even realize I was doing this until I was, well, I never sort of set out to do it on purpose. It just turned out to be the way that I played as a way to kind of cover for that 4th string while I was reaching for other notes. But the third possibility is just to rationalize playing an open D string. Say, well, this is an E chord, it's an E7, and this D is the 7th of the E chord. So really, what's wrong with this? And it actually sounds okay as long as you don't do it all the time. To my ears anyway. So a combination of actually grabbing the root, ghosting the 4th string, and letting the 4th string just sit open seems to, it covers all the bases. Like one of those 3 alternatives, as long as you don't hear any one of them all the time, or don't worry about hearing one of them all the time, seems to give you the latitude to go for other kinds of things in the melody. And so if you're going to practice that idea, you might start by just starting out with your hand in this position and then just relaxing the index finger of the left hand so you're getting this ghosted note, and just try doing the alternating thumb like that, and then so you're trying to get fretted notes that are clear on the B string, on the 2nd string. And you wouldn't necessarily play up here like this, but it's just an exercise to get used to having your left hand do 2 things at once, which is to actually fret a note here and then ghost a note here. And while you're at it, the index finger can be cutting off both the 4th string and the 3rd string, which means you can have that in between kind of groove note with your index finger. So you've got this 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, which sounds ridiculous by itself, but that kind of all that ghosted stuff is what gives it the syncopation, so it doesn't just sound like. obviously like those bass riffs are also kind of doing the same part of the same job as these internal kind of ghost note syncopations. And obviously if you hear this like all the time, that's going to get annoying too. So this is just something to have in between, kind of holding things together when you're not playing a longer linear line. And so as far as some of those longer linear things go, they might happen while you're, if you have a longer line, that might be a time when you allow the open 4th string just to ring out. And you won't really notice it because there's something else in the foreground kind of grabbing your attention, which is that linear lick. And so just, I mean, you could do really almost anything, but just as to have something to practice over that alternating thumb. So that's really just taking, I think in one of the series on playing the changes, the 6-part series on playing the changes, talk at the beginning of that series about something called the swing scale, which is this idea of you've got the minor pentatonic and you've got the major pentatonic, and if you kind of crush them together and include the flat 5 from the blues scale, then you end up with this hybrid that's sort of major and sort of minor. It's basically the Mixolydian scale, only it's got the flat 3rd and it's got the flat 5. So it's got all these chromatic notes going on. So that is basically a good example of that swing scale idea put into practice. I've got flat 3 to 3 to the root to the 5th to the flat 7, 6, 5. What did I actually do? Yeah, so 5, flat 5, 4, 5, flat 3, 3, 4, flat 5, 5, root. See if I can play it slowly. Yeah, so you put that over the thumb. Get the root back in there where it belongs in between. So you could be playing your blues licks. Was the lick. There it is. So obviously, like, you can turn those notes in and around and on themselves however you like. But if you have those 3 different ways of dealing with the 4th string, then you can be a lot more flexible in where you go and what kind of notes you choose to play. And if your memory is better than mine, then you can stick that one particular lick I just did wherever you want, whenever you want, and of course work out other variations as well. So that's some ideas for just how to open things up for the right hand so that you can get to some more left hand stuff. Hope that gives you some things to work on. Leave me a comment below if you got a question or a thought about that. I'd love to hear what you're working on, and I'll see you next time.